11 winters, 300 names, 1 bear. October 1873. A frontier doctor opens his ledger after another funeral and writes down the thing almost nobody out there bothered to write down. Name on the left, cause on the right. Turn every page. A bear shows up once. Wolves, never. Just the same handful of words over and over, all the way down that right-hand column. You've been sold a lie about the frontier, neighbor. Teeth, arrows, a rifle over the door. Every killer on that list is still inside your house tonight. Water, a rag, a knife, a cough coming in through the front door. The bears got the legend, the well got the bodies, and the doctor didn't just write down how they died, he wrote down how they could have lived. Now let me tell you about that one bear, friend, because it's the whole video in a single line. Page 41, a man's name. And beside it, in that doctor's cramped brown ink, bear, then a leg, then 11 days. The bear didn't kill him. The bear put him on the ground and ran off into the laurel. He walked home on a bad leg. His wife washed it out with water from the branch and wrapped it in a rag off the line. 11 days later, the doctor wrote him into the book. So even the bear didn't kill the one man the bear gets credit for. The leg did. Or rather, what got into the leg, out of the water, off the rag. That's the frontier. That's the actual frontier, not the one on the movie poster. And the myth that filled that right-hand column, the myth I'm going to take apart with you for the next half hour, is one sentence long. Your great-great-grandmother believed it. Most people watching this still believe it. If it's clear, if it's cold, if it's running, it's clean. Clear, cold, running. 3 words that killed more Americans on this continent than every predator that ever walked it. The spring behind the cabin was cleared it. It was cold enough to ache your teeth. It ran year-round. And it ran downhill from the privy. Here's what I'm going to hand you tonight. Not a lecture on germs. A method. The 6 pieces of keeping a household alive that a frontier doctor wrote down at the back of that ledger, in a section he titled, "And I'll show you why this wrecked me the first time I read it." He titled it, Preventable. One word. Preventable. 300 names on the left, and in the back of the same book, in the same hand, 6 pieces that would have saved most of them. By the time we're done here tonight, you'll know how to pick where your water comes from. You'll know how to carry it so it doesn't turn on you. You'll know what the rag does. You'll know what to do with a knife cut so it doesn't do what that bear leg did. You'll know what your great-grandmother did the day a cough walked in her front door. And you'll know the 6th piece. The 6th piece is the one they stripped out. Because here's what I want to sit in your chest tonight, friend. If the water in your county went bad tomorrow, a main breaks, a flood, an ice storm, a boil notice on your phone, could you keep 4 people drinking safe water for 30 days out of a creek? Most grown men in this country couldn't. Their great-grandmothers could do it half asleep with a kettle and a scrubbed barrel. That's the sovereignty we're taking back today. Not guns, not gold. Water, hands, and a fire. Stay with me by choice, friend. This one's worth the half hour. I'm Silas Mercer, 7th generation on this ridge. The Mercers have held this stretch of Appalachian Mountain since the 1790s, and I haven't left it. My grandfather Eli raised me after my daddy died in the timber. Before Eli went, he made me copy every last thing he knew into a leather journal. This is me keeping that promise. The ledger I'm reading from tonight isn't a Mercer book. Eli bought it in 1961 out of a box at an estate sale 2 counties over for less than $1, a country doctor's daybook, 11 winters of it. Eli copied the back section into his journal and wrote across the top, "This is the part they quit teaching." He was right. And the reason they quit isn't that it stopped working. It's that somewhere between 1890 and 1960, water got to be somebody's business. Sanitation got to be a bill you pay, a household skill turned into a service you rent. Nobody outlawed your kettle, neighbor. They just made sure you'd never learn what to do with it. 6 pieces, 6 in order. Miss one, and somebody in your house gets sick. Miss the last one, and somebody gets buried. Before we get into it, pull the trigger on subscribe. The buried skills we drag back into daylight around here, you're going to want the next one. There was a family in the ledger. I don't know their name, the doctor used initials, but I know their homestead because he described it when he wrote up the deaths. Cabin up on the flat, barn downhill, privy out back, close enough to reach in the dark. And where was out back? Uphill of the spring, because the ground behind the cabin rises. Every piece of that layout made sense. Every piece of it was killing them. Water runs downhill. So does everything in it. The doctor knew. He wrote it plain. The spring sat below the necessary. That family drank what ran through their own waste, and the water tasted sweet the whole time. Your water source sits uphill of everything dirty, and 100 feet from all of it. Not 50, because the ground's convenient. 100. More if the soil is gravelly, because gravel is a highway, and clay is a wall. Well gets a curb and a cover. An open well is a bucket for everything that blows, crawls, or drowns. Spring gets a boxed head. Creek water is the last choice, not the first, and the only question that matters is what's upstream. Now, a doctor in London proved this in a way nobody could argue with. Summer of 1854, cholera tearing through Soho, bodies stacking up so fast the parish couldn't dig. And this one physician, quiet man, stubborn, did something nobody had thought to do. He didn't look at the sick. He looked at where the sick drew water. He made a map, dot by dot, death by death, and every dot clustered around one pump on Broad Street. He walked to the parish board and told them to take the handle off the pump. They thought he was out of his mind. They did it anyway. Deaths stopped. His name was John Snow, and that map is the founding document of the whole science. Not a microscope, not a laboratory, a map of who drew water from where. 170 years later, the answer hasn't moved an inch. There's a spring on the north side of this ridge that runs cold in August. When I was a boy, I thought it was the best water on the mountain. Eli wouldn't drink it. He walked me up above it one October and showed me the old sheep bedding ground, 40 yards up the slope. Water doesn't care how good it tastes, he said. It only tells you where it's been if you go look. That walk is free, and it is the single most valuable thing you'll do all month. But finding clean water was only half the problem, because the water was clean when they dipped it. It was the trip home that killed them. And the thing that killed them on that trip is sitting on your kitchen counter right now. I'll show you what I mean. Picture the kitchen. Puncheon floor, one window. On the bench sits the water bucket. Hanging on a nail above it, the gourd dipper. Every soul in that house drinks out of that one dipper. The hired man, the child with the sore throat, the neighbor who walked over. All day, all week, warm by the fire. That bucket is not storage, neighbor. That's a culture dish. 2 vessels, and they never trade jobs. One hauls, it touches the ground, the well curb, your boots. One holds, and it touches nothing but clean water and a clean lid. The haul bucket never becomes the drinking bucket. Ever. That single rule cuts more sickness out of a household than any filter you can buy. Cover it tight. Flies aren't a nuisance in this context. Flies are a delivery service, off the manure pile, onto the rim of your water. and kill the shared dipper. Each person gets their own cup. Your great-grandmother had a wall of tin cups with initials scratched in the bottoms. Modern people think that was charming. It wasn't charming, it was a firebreak. And we know it was a firebreak because of what happened on the trains. Around 1909, a few state health boards started paying attention to the tin cup that hung by the water barrel in every rail car. Hundreds of mouths a day, one cup. They banned it. State after state followed. And a whole industry, the paper cup, was born out of that ban. Not out of convenience, out of body counts. The cup was the vector. Your great-grandmother figured it out with initials and a nail. It took the rest of the country another 60 years. Now, your water's sourced. It's carried and held right. And it's still cloudy. So we clear it. This is where the myth does its worst work. Because piece 3 makes your water look perfect. And looking perfect is exactly what killed them. But the way it killed them, that's the part nobody tells you. Picture the porch, a barrel up on blocks. Inside, from the top down, clean sand, finer sand, charcoal broken small out of the fireplace, coarse gravel on the bottom over a cloth. Creek water going in the top brown, coming out the spigot clear as glass. That barrel is a real tool. Settle first. Let cloudy water stand still. Silt drops out in hours. Dip off the top. Strain through boiled cloth, catches leaves, wigglers, grit. Then the barrel. Sand does mechanical work. Charcoal takes out taste and smell. Your water will come out looking and smelling like it came from God's own spring, and it will still kill you. Settling, straining, sand and charcoal make water clear. They do not make water safe. They do not kill typhoid, cholera, dysentery, or giardia. A sand and charcoal barrel is a pre-filter, not a purifier. Anybody who tells you different is going to get somebody's grandchild killed. Clear is not clean. Cold is not clean. Running is not clean. A man builds the barrel, runs muddy creek water through it, holds up a jar of gin-clear water to the light, and drinks it with pride. He passed the eye test. But the eye test has no authority here. Your eyes cannot see a cyst 9 microns across. Nobody's can. Eli kept a charcoal barrel on the north side of the spring house, and I never one time saw him drink out of it without the water going over the fire first. I asked him why bother with the barrel if you're going to boil anyway. He said, because the fire's got enough work to do. Clean it up front and the fire finish is easy. That's the right way to think about every filter you will ever own. Everything so far, your great-great-grandmother could have walked you through in one afternoon. Sourcing, vessels, settling. That's the household part. What's coming next is different. This is where the ledger stops being about water and starts being about hands. And the word that repeats down that right-hand column from here on, Eli underlined it twice. But before I tell you what that word is, I need to tell you about a young woman in Vienna. Because what happened to her happened to every third woman on the page I'm about to read you. She came into the hospital healthy. She delivered fine. 6 days later, she was dead. Childbed fever. That's what the ledger says, over and over. Young women, strong the day before, gone in less than a week. The frontier explanation was God's will, or bad air, or she took a chill. And the actual explanation was hands. Hands and the rag. In that Vienna hospital, 1847, one ward was run by doctors, the other by midwives. The doctors' ward had 5 times the death rate. 5 times. And the women knew it. They begged to be sent to the midwives' ward. Some gave birth in the street rather than walk through the doctor's door. One man noticed. A young physician, Hungarian, stubborn in the way that gets you destroyed. He watched the doctors come straight from the autopsy room to the delivery room, hands unwashed, and he understood something nobody else was willing to see. He ordered every doctor to wash his hands in chlorine solution before touching a patient. The death rate collapsed. They mocked him for it. They stripped his position. He died in an asylum at 47, beaten by guards. His name was Ignaz Semmelweis, and he was right. Soap and water and time. Lather and scrub, palms, backs, between the fingers, under the nails, for a slow count of 20. Rinse in poured water, not a basin, because a basin reloads your hands with what you just took off them. Before food, before wounds, before births. After the privy, after the barn. And between people, you do not go from the sick child to the well child with the same hands. That single habit is the fire break in a house. Now the rag. This is the part that'll change how you look at your own kitchen tonight. A cloth that looks clean and has been in service 3 days is the dirtiest object in the house, and it goes everywhere. Faces, dishes, wounds, the baby. One cloth, one job, and out. Wound cloth is boiled, dried, and kept covered. Sick room linen never joins the family wash, boiled separate, dried in full sun. Your great-grandmother's wash kettle in the yard was a sterilizer with a fire under it. The day the automatic washer came in on cold water and a scented pod, that function walked out of the American house and nobody noticed. Eli had a bar of homemade soap on a wire loop by the spring house door, outdoors all year. Years later I found the page in the journal, in the doctor's copied hand, wash before, wash between, wash after. It is not for the sake of your hands, not for the sake of your hands. For the sake of whoever your hands touch next. Now, you've got a wound. And a wound is the doorway the bare leg went through. What you do in the first 10 minutes decides whether it heals, or whether it does what page 41 did. But the wound isn't the only door. There's another one, the actual front door of the cabin. And what walked through it was worse than any knife slip. I'm going to show you both, because they're the same skill wearing 2 coats. Down that ledger column. Mortification, gangrene, lockjaw, tetanus, off manure, off soil, off a rusty nail. Blood poisoning, sepsis, and it came in on a rag. Let it bleed a moment. Bleeding flushes, then irrigate hard, boiled and cooled water, poured with pressure. A liter is not too much. You are physically evicting dirt, gravel, bark, and manure. Get every splinter out. Boiled tweezers, good light, patience. Cover, don't seal. Clean, dry, boiled cloth. Snug, not tight. A deep or puncture wound does not get closed airtight. It wants to drain. Seal filth inside a wound, and you've built an incubator with a lid. Watch for the 4 signs. Spreading redness. A red streak running up the limb. Swelling, worsening after day 2. Fever. Any one of those, especially the streak, is a run-don't-walk. The whiskey? The frontier poured it in wounds. Alcohol at drinking strength is a poor antiseptic, and it damages tissue. The clean water and the scrub did the work. They still do. Now the front door. This is the one that emptied whole cabins in a fortnight. The pattern in the ledger is unmistakable once you see it. 1 name, then 3 weeks later, 4 more names, same family. It came in with a visitor, a peddler, a cousin, a child sent home from school. The doctor wrote it plain. Separate immediately. 1 room, the farthest one. 1 nurse, not the whole family, drifting in and out. That person keeps an apron that stays in the sick room and comes off at the door. Washes hands going in and coming out. Nothing crosses. The sick person's cup, plate, bedding, and wash water do not rejoin the household. Dishes boiled. Linens boiled and sunned. waste buried far downhill of the water. This is where pieces 1 and 5 shake hands, and where families killed themselves twice. Air and light. Open the window, even in cold. Bundle the patient, ventilate the room. And time. Don't lift the quarantine because they feel better. 2 weeks past the last symptom. Recovery isn't the same day as safety. 1 room, 1 nurse. Nothing crosses. Air and light. 2 weeks. All right, 5 pieces down. Sourcing, vessels, filtering, hands and rags, wounds and quarantine. And every single one of them slows things down. Good siding slows contamination, a covered crock slows it, sand slows it. Soap slows it. Isolation slows it. Not one of them kills. The 300 people in that ledger were not fools. Most of them were doing 4 of these 5 things. They sighted the spring uphill. They covered the crock. They kept a decent house. They died anyway, because there is a 6th piece, and it's the only one on the list that actually kills the thing that's killing you. I promised you at the top we'd get here. Here we are. Picture the doctor. October, 1873. Boots wet, coat wet. 12 miles ridden. He's just come out of a cabin where he could not do one useful thing, and he's sitting at a plank table with the ledger open and a lamp turned low, writing a name on the left. And then he turns to the back of the book, to the section he headed Preventable, and he writes the sentence Eli underlined twice. The water was clear. There was a kettle on the crane. The fire was lit. They did not put the one in the other. That's the 6th piece, friend. That's the whole thing. Heat. Sustained heat, all the way through. Salt doesn't kill it. Cold doesn't kill it. Clear doesn't kill it. Sand and charcoal don't kill it. Whiskey doesn't kill it. Time doesn't kill it. It just gives it room. Heat kills it. 1 full minute at a rolling boil. 3 minutes above 6,500 feet. Not steaming. Not steaming. Not a shiver of bubbles on the bottom of the pot. Rolling. So you can see it working from across the room. That 1 minute kills bacteria, viruses, and protozoa. Typhoid, cholera, dysentery, giardia. The whole right-hand column of that ledger, dead, in 60 seconds, for the price of a stick of wood. Then cool it covered and pour it into a clean vessel, because the half that gets skipped is the half that undoes everything. Boiled water poured back into the bucket it came out of is not boiled water anymore. Boiled water dipped out with a dirty gourd is not boiled water anymore. The fire's work lasts exactly until the next dirty thing touches it. Heat, then a clean vessel, then a lid. The chain has to hold, or the fire was firewood for nothing. Boil the rags, boil the bandages, boil the sickroom dishes and the needle. Whenever you can't answer the question, is this clean? The answer is heat. If you can't boil, know your backups. Unscented bleach, roughly 8 drops per gallon, stirred, 30 minutes. Purification tablets, a certified filter. Full sun in clear bottles for 6 hours in a pinch. But the fire is the one that never needs a supply chain. I'm not your doctor, friend. None of this replaces care you can get. This is what you do when you can't. And here's the part that isn't about germs at all. Why did that family have a clear spring, a lit fire, a kettle on the crane, and not put the one in the other? Because boiling all your water is work. It's fuel. It's an hour. It's a hot cabin in August. It is a tax you pay every day for a danger you cannot see, cannot smell, cannot taste. They skipped it for the same reason we skip it. Because nothing happened yesterday when they skipped it. That's the myth in its final form. Not just clear means clean, deeper. Nothing happened last time means nothing happens this time. That's what filled the right-hand column. And that is what 60 seconds of rolling boil answers permanently for a stick of hickory. Whole, in order, the way it came out of the back of that book. 1. Source uphill, 100 feet from every privy and barn lot. Covered, know what's upstream. 2. Two vessels, never trading jobs, covered tight, no hands in the water. Everybody gets their own cup. 3. Settle, strain, sand and charcoal if you've got it, and know that clear is not safe. 4. Lather and scrub for 20. Poured water, 1 cloth, 1 job, then boil it. 5. Flood the wound, pick it clean. Cover, don't seal. Watch for the streak. When a cough comes in, 1 room, 1 nurse, nothing crosses, 2 weeks. 6. 1 full minute at a rolling boil. Cool it covered. Pour it into a clean vessel with a lid. Heat kills. 300 names, friend. 1 bear, and the bear didn't even do it. The leg did. Off a rag, out of a bucket, in 11 days. The rest of that column is water and hands. Every one of them was in the house. Every one of them was preventable with a pot, a bar of soap, a lid, and 1 minute of fire. And the whole reason you didn't know that isn't that anybody hid it. There just was never a nickel in reminding you. Nobody builds a business on the customer who boils his own water and keeps his own 2 buckets straight. There's a fortune in the bottle, the pod, the filter subscription, and the $1,200 rig with the app. And there is nothing at all in a habit. So this was never really about a ledger, neighbor. It was about being a household that can't be switched off. If a main breaks, your family drinks. If the ice takes the power for 2 weeks, your family drinks. If the boil notice hits your phone at 7 in the morning, you shrug, and you put the kettle on the fire, and you get on with your day. That's not survivalism. That's the ordinary competence your great-great-grandmother had, that got quietly taken off you, and that you just took back in half an hour. Your great-grandfather knew all of this. Somebody just didn't get the chance to hand it down to you. That's what I was here for tonight. Now tell me down below, did your people have a spring house? A dug well or a drilled one? Did your grandmother boil the wash in a kettle in the yard? What did they call it in your family? The flux, summer complaint, milk sick, putrid sore throat. Every region had its own words for the same handful of killers. Put the word your grandparents used in the comments. Next time, the frontier remedy that actually worked, the one plant your great-grandmother kept in the rafters that a modern pharmacy still sells under a different name, and the year the patent medicine men made sure you'd buy it back at 40 times the price. Don't let it die on your watch. Keep the old ways they kept, friend. I'll see you on the ridge.